I definitely need to make changes. Those were the bold and haunting words spoken by Coco Gauff as she walked off the hallowed grass courts of Wimbledon in the year 2025, where she found herself on the wrong side of one of the most shocking first-round exits in recent Grand Slam memory. The crowd, still reeling from the unexpected turn of events, was left wondering how such a formidable talent, someone who had long been heralded as the new face of women's tennis, could suffer such a swift and unsettling defeat. What happened to the unstoppable momentum she carried from her recent triumph on the clay courts? And more importantly, how is this surprising loss going to shape her next steps, leading into the hard court season, culminating in the formidable challenge of the US Open? In this in-depth deep dive, we are going to explore every twist and turn of Coco Gauff's roller coaster ride at Wimbledon, dissect her mindset during those pivotal tie-break moments, and examine the unrelenting pressure any young superstar faces when singled out as the latest tennis sensation. You will discover how she went from a promising teenager who dazzled the tennis world during her early appearances to a seasoned contender carrying the expectations of an entire nation. We will ask the questions that need to be asked about her strategy, her mental approach, and whether her transition from the clay season might have left her unprepared for the challenges of grass. Stay with us as we peel back the layers of a fiercely competitive athlete who has learned hard lessons on both heartbreak and perseverance. Coco Gauff's first splash at Wimbledon came when she was a mere 15 years old. With an electrifying style of play, fearless returns, and an on-court composure that belied her age, she managed to captivate audiences worldwide. Back then, the question was not whether she would shine again at the All England Club, but rather how soon she would claim the biggest prize in tennis. Every new season found her name boldly placed among the top contenders, and by the time the year 2025 rolled around, Gauff had climbed the rankings to become the second seed, a status that spoke volumes about how far she had come. Yet, tennis can be as cruel as it is exhilarating, and this year's Wimbledon proved that in unfiltered fashion. Within days, the singles draws for both men and women claimed casualty after casualty among the most celebrated players in the sport. A total of 8 top 10 seeds saw their championship hopes dashed in the very first round. Seasoned veterans bowed out alongside rising stars, raising eyebrows amongst fans and pundits alike. Was it the pressure of the sport's most storied competition? Was it the capricious nature of grass courts, which can neutralize power and expose any lapse in footwork or timing? Or was it simply the unpredictability of an event that has never shied away from dramatic upsets? For Gauff, the sting was especially sharp. She had stormed through recent months with a level of tennis that left her opponents gasping. During the clay season, she showcased a complete mastery of the slow surface, culminating in a triumph at Roland Garros that earned her widespread acclaim. The tennis world looked on as she hoisted the trophy on that day, a broad smile on her face, almost as if to say, "Yes, I am truly here. I have arrived." Yet, even the euphoria of that victory could not shield her from the challenge of quickly transitioning to the unique demands of grass. There is a rhyme and rhythm to the turf that she had not yet fully deciphered. Though she had previously enjoyed some success, even reaching the 4th round in her earliest appearance, she never truly felt at ease with the slippery unpredictability beneath her feet. Then came the year 2025 Wimbledon. The fresh optimism, the swirl of media hype, the adoring fans. Everything that should have set the stage for a glorious run. But the tennis gods had other plans. Fellow Americans Jessica Pegula and Qinwen Zheng had already stumbled out of the tournament in their opening matches, hinting that a larger pattern might be unfolding. By the time Coco Gauff took the court, the pressure was on her to restore pride to that contingent of American players, to show that the heartbreak could end with her stepping onto the grass with confidence. But Diana Yastremska burst onto court 1 like a storm, refusing to bow to the narrative that Gauff's fortitude would prevail. The atmosphere turned tense as Gauff and Yastremska exchanged powerful ground strokes in the opening set, each vying to dictate the pace of the rally. The scoreboard advanced toward a tiebreak, that nerve-wracking mechanism of tennis which can either orchestrate a triumphant chorus or conclude in an abrupt and discordant ending. In that pivotal moment, Gauff later admitted she felt hesitant, as though her usual instincts just were not quite aligned with the nuances of the grass. Her frustration became palpable when she finally surrendered that first set, 7-6, in a heart-stopping tiebreak. The second set became a quicker affair, with unforced errors mounting from Gauff's side of the net, and her serve faltering more than she had ever anticipated. By the end, Yastremska emerged victorious at 6-1, leaving the second seed scandalized and the spectators in a state of disbelief. As Gauff met the press afterward, her voice carried both the raw edge of disappointment and a steeled resolve to soldier on. She acknowledged how uncomfortable she felt on grass, explaining that she had only a limited time to recalibrate her approach after an extended clay court campaign. Switching from a surface where deep sliding movements and grueling rallies set the tone, to one that rewards quick bursts, nimble footwork, and a decidedly different racket technique, can upend an athlete's entire sense of timing. In Gauff's case, it seemed to do precisely that. Yet, for all the heartbreak of an early Wimbledon exit, the door remains open for another redemptive tale on the horizon, the US Open, set to take place in just a matter of weeks. The hard court circuit, with events spanning North America, beckons. Gauff relished success on those courts in the past, especially after building emotional resilience from her various ups and downs in Europe. Now, she has an early start on realigning her game for those fast-bouncing surfaces, and she seems ready to seize that opportunity. There is, after all, a certain defiance in her voice whenever she talks about proving her doubters wrong. But we must peel back the layers of this story to understand just how significant, a double-edged sword, if you will, her stardom can be. Gauff and her team have always maintained meticulous planning, analyzing draw possibilities, scouting potential competition well in advance, and meticulously fine-tuning her serve. Some tennis insiders even remarked that her serve, on its good day, can be every bit as lethal as some of the hardest hitters on the tour. The setbacks, though, whether at Wimbledon or elsewhere, remind us that tennis is both physical battle and mental chess. A second seed in the broad scheme of major championships is more than just a label. It comes with expectations so heavy they can feel crushing. Now, the question emerges, did Gauff arrive at Wimbledon too fixated on preserving her momentum from Roland Garros, neglecting to sharpen the reflexes and shorter backswing required by grass? Or was it a matter of mental fatigue, an entirely different beast that can strike even the sturdiest competitors on a global stage? The pressure to perform can seep into every aspect of an athlete's life. Add youth, fame, and the lofty hopes of an entire country, and you have a recipe that could strain even the most resilient spirit. In the immediate aftermath of her loss to Yastremska, Gauff's tone was resolute, yet edged with heartbreak, as she said, "I don't really like losing." Her remark came out in a voice that wavered between dejection and a hint of fiery defiance. Over the next few days, the tennis world buzzed with speculation. Would she seek out a different training tactic for grass next year? Would she add specialized coaches to her team to address that surface's peculiarities? Would she harness this disappointment as fuel to support an electrifying performance in New York? Before we tackle those questions, it's worth recalling how Coco Gauff became a sensation in the first place. Raised in a supportive family environment that believed in shaping her discipline and character, as well as her tennis skill, Gauff grew up idolizing legends of the game. Many fans remember how she used to speak in awe of the Williams sisters, soaking up every bit of their story as impetus for her own dreams. She soared through the juniors, winning titles along the way, and then captured headlines with her extraordinary runs in the adult draws, displacing top seeds, attracting the tennis world's unblinking gaze, and managing to remain surprisingly grounded in her approach. By the time she stepped onto the clay courts this season, Gauff was no longer a promising newcomer. She was a recognized star with a Grand Slam under her belt, an emblem of thrilling female athletics. Her victory in Paris still glistens as a testament to her ability to shift gears in sticky, drawn-out rallies. However, such adaptability has its limits when the tournaments come thick and fast, leaving little time to pivot from one surface's demands to the next. The emotional peak of winning the French Open soared mighty high, but the psychological come-down, combined with her scramble to transition onto grass, may have set the stage for this abrupt misfortune. Observers frequently note that the mind games in tennis can pile up more quickly than a flurry of unforced errors during an off day. Gauff herself has admitted that her mental approach waxes and wanes depending on the court conditions, the crowd intensity, and her own sense of confidence. At Wimbledon, she lamented how each time she finally grasps the feel of grass, the clock has already ticked too far, and there is scant room for a true metamorphosis. This begs the question, can mental clarity and a tactical shift happen quickly enough to salvage future Wimbledons? Or will her legacy always be slightly more comfortable on clay and hard courts? The heartbreak does not rest solely on Coco Gauff's shoulders, of course. Once again, fans watched Jessica Pegula triumph in a few tournaments earlier in the season, only to see her undone in the early stages at the All England club. It seems that swirling uncertainty was not reserved just for Gauff, but hit multiple top-tier Americans, hopefully uniting them in a mutual quest for redemption and composure on home soil. After all, the formidable US Open is only weeks away. Will Gauff find that inner fire to retake her rightful place among the top seeds? Or will this early departure cast a shadow on her summer preparations? If you are feeling the growing tension in this unfolding drama, take a moment to share your reactions by giving this story a like. Every gesture of your solidarity helps highlight the extraordinary path Coco Gauff has traveled and the new challenges that lie ahead for her. From the teenage prodigy who once stunned a tennis icon in the opening rounds of a major, to the second seed battling through mastery of multiple surfaces, her evolution has been anything but dull. So, if you appreciate the grit and drama that tennis so often delivers, go ahead and let other fans know you are just as invested in this narrative. Meanwhile, part of Gauff's next steps may involve traveling to smaller tournaments scattered across the hard-court swing, allowing her to fine-tune her strokes without the enormous stress of a Grand Slam overshadowing every move. Some players thrive in the calmer environment of less hyped events, where each passing round fosters incremental growth and a chance to experiment. If Gauff chooses that path, she will face the balancing act of ensuring she does not burn out before the US Open arrives. The question stands: will stepping away from the glitz for a moment prove beneficial, or should she dive right into major tune-up events against the world's best? Beyond the immediate strategic puzzle, Gauff's journey strikes at a deeper yearning in the tennis world, the quest to uncover the next great champion who can sustain star power year after year. The retirement of revered icons and the inconsistent performances of other up-and-comers fuel the search for a stable presence at the top. Coco Gauff has been branded that potential star for years now, but serious watchers of the sport caution that tennis narratives are rarely linear. For every early season champion who soared, there is a cautionary tale of a player perhaps unprepared for the spotlight's heat. This vantage brings us to the intangible aspects of competition, the immeasurable grit, the intangible heartbreak, and the humbling knowledge that the greatest foes in sports are often lurking in the athlete's own mind. In front of the microphones at Wimbledon, moments after she lost, Gauff's eyes glistened when she admitted that "it definitely sucks." Those three words reverberated through the tennis community because they pulled back the curtain on human vulnerability. Here was a world-class athlete, a second seed, who dared to say what all of us might feel in our darkest times: the heartbreak is real, and it stings. That heartbreak, ironically, has the potential to galvanize supporters around her quest for redemption. Fans want to see if Gauff can convert these bitter lessons into the intangible fuel that could propel her to seize glory once more. The upcoming US Open stands as a perfect stage for such a narrative. Hard courts are often considered a balanced middle ground, not as unpredictable as grass, not as grueling as clay. If Gauff finds herself returning to that surface with fresh training and revived mental fortitude, the spectacle of a deep run in New York might just come to life. One can imagine the roaring crowd at Flushing Meadows, decked out in red, white, and blue, cheering on a determined young star desperate to prove her worth on home soil. The promise of a night match under the bright lights, the building tension of each set, and the crowds chanting her name, these are the experiences that can reforge a player's mentality. Gauff will face the added challenge that many others in the field will also be riding their own waves of momentum or heartbreak. Still, the intangible advantage of playing in one's own country, with supporters chanting through the ups and downs, must not be underestimated. Some experts, recollecting Gauff's earlier battles in pressure-packed matches, point out that she thrives when the stakes are highest and the cameras are rolling. She might falter for a set or appear on the brink of collapse, only to whip out a miraculous down-the-line forehand that reignites belief. That volatility can be a strength as well as a liability, though. When it works, it manifests as unstoppable momentum. But when the mental gears slip, especially in a notoriously stressful tiebreak, one small mistake can amplify into an avalanche of unforced errors. Looking ahead, we must also consider that professional tennis is a chessboard in perpetual motion. The formidable Iga Swiatek, the resurgent Naomi Osaka, and other big hitters are contending for Grand Slam glory. Every player has their unique story, their own arc of redemption or heartbreak. Coco Gauff is but one star in a wide constellation, yet she remains a central figure because of her background, her charismatic presence, and her fearless brand of tennis that has captivated so many. Fans want to see if she can handle the mounting burdens of stardom, sponsorships, media demands, and the unstoppable swirl of social media commentary. In the days after that Wimbledon defeat, rumors of fresh consultations with specialized coaches circulated across tennis forums. Some say Gauff might be re-evaluating her footwork patterns, employing advanced analytics to track every pivot of her ankles on grass. Others suggest she may try different racket tensions, searching for the sweet spot that can yield more reliable service games. There is even speculation that she might revisit her entire approach to tiebreaks, which so often dictate who truly grasps the day. But whether or not any of those rumors hold true, the underlying truth remains. This is a young athlete unafraid to face adversity and resolute in her determination to evolve. As we attempt to keep pace with Gauff's story, the bigger question broadens to include the tennis community as well. How many of us feel that wave of expectation when it comes to our own lives? That tension to perform flawlessly, with little margin for error, mirrors the emotional challenges players face on the court. When Gauff says she never wants to write herself off from achieving success on grass so early in her career, it resonates with those of us who have faced downturns but keep our hopes pinned on a better tomorrow. Perhaps tennis, with its theatrical arcs of heartbreak and triumph, is echoing the universal struggle to adapt, grow, and try again. After all, to adapt is to survive and to conquer. Gauff, though only in her early 20s, has repeatedly shown unshakable resilience. She understands the nuances of changing surfaces. She just needs to sharpen her tools and manage her psychological transitions with as much grace as possible. Grass evidently remains her Achilles heel, but with more experience, she might one day turn it into a stage that complements her explosive power. Overcoming immediate setbacks has always been part of the champion's journey, and Gauff's willingness to build on each failure could become the bedrock of her lasting success. If you love following these tennis sagas and you want to be among the first to witness Gauff's potential turnaround at the US Open, subscribe. There is so much more to come, and you do not want to miss any surprise twists that might unfold on those iconic hard courts in late summer. For now, fans can only follow Gauff's progress through the lead-up tournaments, watch how she handles the spotlight, and wait for that moment when she returns to a Grand Slam stage with unrelenting fire in her eyes. Will she find the rationale behind her grass court setbacks, or will hidden technical flaws persist as she looks to shine again under the intense lights of nighttime matches in the city that never sleeps? One thing remains certain: tennis careers are long stories with many chapters, and Coco Gauff, still so young, has an unwritten future that stretches before her, brimming with possibility. Yes, she lost in the first round of Wimbledon. And yes, it stung enough to summon a few tears. But in the realm of professional tennis, heartbreak can be the catalyst for metamorphosis. Each loss on the tennis court is like a glass window exposing vulnerabilities, but that same clarity can lead to renewed purpose and sharper skills. If Gauff keeps a clear head, invests in the right coaching, and preserves her love for the game, there is every reason to believe that this frustration will fade into a mere footnote in a much larger story of a champion's rise. Let us not forget that tennis is not strictly linear. Some players break through suddenly at an early age and then face unexpected setbacks, only to re-emerge stronger. Others build momentum more gradually, learning to handle adversity along the way. For Gauff, the future likely holds a blend of heartbreak and stunning triumph, of sweat-soaked practice sessions aimed at refining the slightest details, and of emotional roller coasters under the blazing lights of center court. Such is the dual nature of the sport, where the margin between glory and defeat can be measured in millimeters, another reason we find ourselves enthralled by tennis. In truth, this single early exit might one day be remembered as a turning point, a moment when Gauff confronted a barrier she could not overcome with poor skill or muscle memory alone. Perhaps, in the throes of introspection, she will discover new strategies to tailor her movement on grass, new ways to tweak that backhand slice, or new mental rituals that will allow her to step onto the court calm and collected. The seeds of future success are often watered by tears of disappointment, just as the heartbreak on the world's biggest stage can seed the next chapter in a champion's evolution. And so, We watch, with an eagerness fueled by the storyline of a bright star who stumbled in a brutal first round at Wimbledon. We wonder how sharply she will rebound, how swiftly she can rally the momentum that first propelled her into tennis stardom as a teenager defying the odds against grizzled veterans. Her vow regarding the US Open, stating that she has time to regroup, to settle her mind and soul, glimmers like a beacon of hope. She is fiercely determined to harness any available advantage, whether that is devoting longer hours to practice or reorganizing her approach to the mental side of the profession. And that is precisely the kind of hunger that often precedes a triumphant reclaiming of territory. At the close of the day, Coco Gauff is still near the beginning of her journey, despite the weighty projections thrust upon her. Her fans, both old and new, will be eager to discover whether she can channel the sorrow of that Wimbledon defeat into raw energy that propels her to new heights on American turf. The next few weeks will likely bring clarity. If the adjustments she promises to make bear fruit, she could rediscover her magic just in time for a fateful run in the tournament that crowns champions under the neon-lit sky. On the other hand, if the riddle of mental strain and abrupt surface changes continues to haunt her, the journey could extend through more unexpected twists. In either scenario, this is precisely the drama that keeps tennis enthralling. No script is guaranteed, and no outcome is wholly predictable. So, whether you are reading this from a sports cafe in a bustling city or from the cozy comfort of your sofa, keep your eyes locked on Coco Gauff. She is an athlete who embodies both the vulnerability and fortitude that define modern tennis. She may have lost at Wimbledon, but that does not necessarily mean her story there is concluded. It might just be pausing for a moment before she returns, sharper and hungrier than before. The spark in her eye says as much, even if her tears too recently betrayed the sting of rejection. One day, perhaps, the same grass that spelled heartbreak will become a stage for an extraordinary redemption. In the meantime, we await the bright lights of the US Open, where Gauff will look to reclaim her momentum and demonstrate that this slip on grass was merely a momentary jolt. If she can conquer her doubts, refine her game, and ride the wave of home court advantage, we could all witness a revival story rarely seen in the sport. And whether she emerges victorious at Flushing Meadows or not, one thing is certain: Coco Gauff's determination will make for compelling viewing, encapsulating the essence of professional tennis, a game of perpetual chasing and unyielding belief.